The Adjustment Bureau is based on a short story by Philip K. Dick called The Adjustment Team. Team obviously doesn't have quite the ominous ring of bureau. Bureau brings up all kinds of fascistic implications that make you wonder, who's a part of this bureau? Well, in the Adjustment Bureau, Matt Damon plays an aspiring politician. He's a candidate for Senate in the state of New York, and he's being pushed as the next big thing. But things suddenly look a little bit odd because there are these guys wearing fedoras walking around who seem to be pulling strings, and not necessarily strings on anyone's behalf. They're this odd loose cannon group of kind of espionage-y looking guys. And when Matt Damon finally has this happenstance encounter at a campaign event with this woman played by Emily Blunt, this mysterious woman that he just bumps into, right as he's about to offer his concession speech after having lost the election, then things really take a weird turn, and these guys intercede to try and keep them apart. Here's a clip.
Oh my God, what's happening to me? What's happening to me?
All you need to know, we're being chased. I need you to trust me. I need you to trust me. Okay, come on. Door. Find another door.
Going on? What the hell is going on, David?
Okay, I'm sorry.
How did we just do that?
I'm so sorry.
How did we just do that?
These doors belong to the people who are chasing us.
Who are they?
I don't know what to call them, but they want to take you away from me.
All right, now exactly what's going on in that clip, there's no way to explain it without giving away far too much in the film. But to kind of get around that a little bit, the movie was written and directed by George Nolfi, who wrote one of the Bourne films and Ocean's 12. It was the Bourne Supremacy, I think it was, that he wrote. And he wrote Ocean's 12. So he has a little bit of connection to Matt Damon with some sequels. This is his directing debut. He's a seasoned screenwriter. This is his directing debut. And I think that's part of the problem here, is that he has this great team of technicians behind him, but he's tackling Philip K. Dick material. And if you've ever seen, obviously, Blade Runner, Total Recall, Minority Report, other movies adapted from Philip K. Dick novels and stories, there's always a personality to them, because Dick wrote these very, very heady novels about grandiose ideas that dealt with heavy metaphysical topics. Mankind, your place in the universe, what is fate, what's real, what isn't, identity. And the only way to sell that stuff in a movie is to really, really give it a sense of style that is equal to the ideas. And what Nolfi does here is he plays it very, very safe. He doesn't really indulge in anything overly stylistic, which makes the movie feel a little bit undercooked in some respect. The other thing is that it tries to sort of have it both ways. It tries to be a very heady intellectual movie dealing with all of these kinds of intellectual and metaphysical and theological ideas, while at the same time still trying to be an exciting popcorn movie, which means you have to kind of do the Inception thing. There are all of these rules about what can and cannot happen, and when it gets a little bit supernatural or science fiction-y, the rules get even more convoluted, and you kind of lose track over what is and what isn't possible and what isn't allowed, and that distracts a little bit from the ideas that they want you to think about. So on one level, you have to give the film credit for being smart, for trying to be smart. On the other hand, it's not nearly as smart as it thinks it is. So I would say it's certainly worth a recommendation. It's worth going to, but don't expect as much as they might be trying to sell you in the commercial.
Yeah, you know, I was very lukewarm on it when it was over. I've since turned on it a little bit. I'm sort of a bit on the positive side on it. What Nolfi is doing is difficult, which is he's essentially making a love story between Matt Damon and Emily Blunt. And the story is about how, really the theme of the story, the theme of the film is predestination versus, let's say, free will.
Yeah.
And I think that these themes don't really come to that intellectual head that I think he thinks it is. He wants it to come to. It really doesn't. It really just, really the movie should be about, you know, are these two people so destined to be together that they could actually defy these godlike creatures who determine the fate of all humans.
Yeah.
And what I'll say about these bureaucrats with the hats, you know,
the Fedora Gang.
The Fedora Gang, Terrence
Which wouldn't have been as good of a title.
No, true. The Terrence Stamp was one of them, who's always, Anthony Mackie was one of them. What's interesting about those guys, which you usually don't get in films like this, is that they're not evil. It's not like Dark City.
Right.
These guys are basically benevolent, and there are positive reasons why these people do not want Matt Damon and Emily Blunt to be together. However, the film is all about their love is so strong that they're willing to give up whatever future is supposedly promised to them because they need to be together. And so I think that there's some themes there that he's not exploring as heavily as he thinks he is. I think another issue is for a film of this type to be so character-oriented, I think is admirable. But in the end, I didn't find there was enough character.
I love the scenes with Matt Damon and Emily Blunt. I think they're extremely well written. I think they're really nicely acted. There's a chemistry that evolves in certainly that first meeting in the bathroom, which goes on forever. I mean, that is an endless scene. And yet it's completely engaging, and you love them, and you sort of, you go through the paces with them. And those first few meetings that they have are really charming, and they're played out to a length that you wouldn't normally have them played out to in any kind of a film. I mean, it's, you know, I could just see a development executive saying, holy cow, we're like 7 or 8 pages here. We can't have a dialogue scene that goes on this long. The audience will get bored. Well, no, not if it's well written, not if the actors can pull it off. And I think they do. I think the chemistry is charming. But then it starts getting into all of the rules stuff. And then, like I said, you have the Inception problem where, well, this is possible and this isn't unless you do this, and then you got to do this, and then you do this. And then your head kind of starts to spin, and you want the characters again. And what it should have done was, you know, cut $10, $15 million from the budget and forget all that popcorn stuff and just make it, you know, a straightforward movie about ideas and love. And you don't need to have excitement. You don't need to have chills and thrills for the teenagers. Just let them go by the wayside and make it a purely adult movie. And at that point, I think they would have had a much more successful film. But as is, it's, like I said, it's kind of undercooked and has some divided loyalties.
I agree. And the reason why that scene worked is because it's so long, because Nolfi is setting the expectation with a long dialogue scene right at the top.
Yeah.
He's doing two things. First of all, he's making sure that the audience is invested at the ground level with them.
Yeah.
And he's also setting an expectation with the audience that this is not going to be this super exciting thing, you know, and that's admirable.
It is.
I just don't know that it all came together as he maybe had hoped.
There a little bit more risk-taking would have been in order.
Yes.
And I think you would have had a better film.
So I don't know how to encapsulate our thoughts on that. Not bad.
Not bad. I mean, worth seeing, but not brilliant.